Well, let's go ahead and get started. This is going to be recorded. We will send it out to everyone that's registered and then also put on the website and make sure that our volunteers have access to it. This is our scholarship program overview and updates leading into the 25-26 school year, which is just crazy to think that that's where we are in the world, but it is early November already of 2025. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Our agenda for today. Do icebreaker, which we were just talking about. People are putting into chat what inspired them to get involved with the association or with the chapter, with the scholarship selection committee. Lots of great answers. Most is about giving back and helping out future leaders and future Cougs. So thank you so much for sharing your ideas there. My name is Jamaica Vandola. I am a Washington Association, WSU Alumni Association staff. I'm Assistant Director of Constituent Engagement, and that means I get to help plan all the really cool engagement activities that happen throughout the country. I also help with the awards and scholarships and a few other things. With today, Roxanne Moore, she is the chair of the scholarship committee, and Karen Dines, who's the vice chair of the scholarship committee. We're going to give an overview of the program, some updates that are happening, and then talk about volunteer roles and responsibilities, and then leave some time for questions at the end. As we're going, you're probably going to have lots of questions. If you would either throw them in the chat, write them down, we want to make sure we answer them. But I think some of your questions will be answered as we go through. So if it's an immediate question, go ahead and come off mute and ask. But otherwise, if we can hang on to the end, see if it's answered or see if there's any follow-up questions at the end, or throw them in the chat and we'll keep an eye on that throughout the presentation. So just a little bit of background, and I actually didn't know these days until we started working on this, is the association was founded in 1898. And the scholarship program was founded in 1980 is when we launched this program. So it's been going for quite a while now. This last year, we gave 65 different scholarships for $287,500, which is a pretty solid number. And that's going to stay consistent this year as well, the number of that amount. It does fluctuate sometimes based on full and part-time students or the different funding sources and how much is available, but we're really working on making sure that we stay pretty close to that number for consistency's sake. We do have a various types of leadership, or types of scholarships. All of the awards through the Alumni Association are based on that leadership qualities. We have a legacy award for our first year students. We do have in-state and out-of-state students. Again, out-of-state based on funding sources kind of dictates how many of those are given out. And they have other funded awards, and we'll talk more about those as we go through, but we have organizations that raise money to help give scholarships to students as well. So some program updates, really looking at the scholarship program with a student-first approach. And that is really the goal of the changes that are coming through this year. Reflecting on changes that have been talked about for a while, we felt it was the right time to make some of these changes. Making sure it's fair and transparent for all students, making sure we're focusing on the best of the best. We're giving their scholarships to those that are the most deserving of the scholarships and involving more of our Coug family in that. And then also a lot of what the changes are driven by conversations we've had with alumni in the past, the volunteer feedback that we've received. We've talked to a lot of students. We've talked to a lot of volunteers that have been part of the process for years, some focus committees. We've also done a lot of research with scholarship services, financial aid, student affairs, other universities that have similar programs, what they're doing, getting input from them that help drive some of these decisions and these changes that were made. None of it was overnight. It's all been kind of a process. And this year, we have a lot of those changes going in place. So a few things, the AI situation last year, I got a lot of emails from people, hey, some of these answers look very AI generated. And so we've actually created an AI statement that is a part of the application, and it's in the handbook. You'll see that when we get there. And it just talks about if a student, we're looking for the authentic student, but if we're not seeing that and you choose to use AI, you need to give credit to AI. When we get in further into the trainings and such, we'll talk about reporting and doing, and looking up if it truly was AI generated or if it was a student answer. We'll check into that more when we get into the training process. The training process also has been revamped a little bit to broken down into more modules, pre-recorded, easy to access from our volunteer side. Based on the feedback that we received last year, a whole lot of information in a long period, it wasn't the most effective. So we've restructured that training session. With some of the changes, we actually were able to give a longer review period for volunteers, so the turnaround wasn't so quick. So we've given more timeline this year, and we'll go through that here through the presentation. And then also increasing ways to engage with students throughout. And so it's not just a one-off, you talk to them once at the interview and then maybe the congratulations, but giving more ideas throughout the process and tools to help engage with those students. I'm going to pass it over to Roxanne now, who's going to start talking about the changes we've instituted this year.
Yep, thank you, Jamaica. So we have 3 changes for this year, all driven by volunteer feedback over the last few years. The first change is a reduction in the GPA. So this was brought forth by volunteers with the goal of engaging with a broader range of students through the scholarship program. And it's proposing to reduce the current minimum from a 3.3 to a 3.0. This is not an item that students receive a score for on their application. This is just an item for eligibility. It makes them eligible to apply to the scholarship at all. So this was supported by WSU Scholarship Services. We're considering students who may have heavier lifts outside of school but are able to maintain that B average. We're also considering current students on campuses and transfer students that might be below that 3.3 threshold. And the research doesn't show a significant difference in graduation rates in students with a 3.3 versus a 3.0. And so this will allow us to stay aligned with our mission in the bylaws, which is to assist in the retention of students, second, third, and fourth year students, as defined by areas of need by student affairs, by scholarship services, and also by the WSU Office of Institutional Research. And this is also consistent with the literature in the field that leadership is grounded in actions and outcomes and not titles, awards, or other metrics that may more accurately measure the dynamics of a working or a learning space. Oh, and one note on the eligibility criteria. Jamaica reviews all of the applications before they're sent out to volunteers, so they are verified and approved for review in Reviewer. So once you get an application, volunteers should know that that application has met the minimum eligibility criteria. All right, change 2. Questions and rubrics, so updates to the questions and rubrics this year. So this was, again, in response to volunteer feedback, asking for a lack asking us to address the lack of clarity and quality in the students' responses. So the questions will be rephrased and formatted to set clear expectations for students and volunteers, and the revision of the questions and rubrics, both for the written materials and their interview materials, will address the concerns that volunteers had, that they had to search through their materials to distill out the evidence of leadership. So the rubric will also be provided to students so that the students are aware as they are drafting their essays, and as they're preparing for the interview, they'll be aware of how they'll be assessed so that they can be more targeted in that preparation. We've also adjusted the language and the layout for the responses to be more student friendly, volunteer friendly, so that both students and volunteers feel like the questions and the platform is more accessible. We're also providing students an opportunity to state what they believe is the evidence that demonstrates the leadership dimension. So this is going to take out any guesswork from the volunteers, any interpretation or guesswork, and attempting to distill that evidence. We're asking students, put your best evidence forward for each dimension. And so that should give a really clear starting point for both the student and the volunteer. And then we've also included a word bank of possible but not exhaustive contexts of leadership, such as internships, practicums, family responsibility, jobs, community service. We have a large word bank. This was to help address feedback that volunteers gave us that students are still self-screening are still screening themselves out of the scholarship application process. They're still subscribing to kind of traditional archetypes of leadership, that they have to be the president of their fraternity or sorority or ASWSU. And if they don't have that on their resume, then they must not be a leader. So we're trying to engage and expand the applicant pool, grow the applicant pool. And so we're trying to help address maybe students' perceptions of what leadership is by giving them a word bank of possibilities. Again, possibilities, but not exhaustive. We couldn't include an exhaustive list there. One note for volunteers, in the volunteer handbook, you all do get additional materials than the students get. Particularly, you guys get the interview questions. I'm just reiterating now, Karen will reiterate it again. You'll probably hear it 100 more times from Karen, Jamaica, and myself. Do not share the interview questions with the students. The students will get access in advance, obviously, to the written questions when they open their portal and they see what the written application questions are, and they start working on that. And they have a few months to do that, but they do not know the interview questions in advance. So please do not share that with them. Oh, thank you. So a little bit about the rubric and the scoring. I talked a lot about the questions right there, but the rubric and the scoring, we've expanded the scoring from a 5-point scale to a 7-point scale. That was in response to volunteer feedback that every year, and this includes myself, we always get questions, well, can I put a 2.5? Can I put a 3.5? Can I get a 4.5? A student has a little bit of a response, but not a complete response to tip them all the way up to that next whole point. And so we've expanded the scale from a 5-point scale to a 7-point scale to specifically address these requests. The 7-point scale is aligned to a rubric. So there are clear descriptions of each dimension, the criteria, and the indicators, and the points allocated, and what the student needs to have present in order to receive a particular score. And both students and, both written materials and interview questions both utilize the same rubric. This is because leadership doesn't change regardless of the modality that we're measuring it in, either written or verbal. And so we've kept the same rubric. And we're also hoping that this allows for volunteers and students to only navigate one rubric for leadership, rather for both the written and the interview, instead of multiple rubrics. All right. And the very last change, I'm going to say it a little bit about it briefly, but Karen's going to go into more detail about the actual how this looks in application as a process. But we've had some restructuring to take that student first approach that Jamaica talked about. So the structure of the scholarship program was in need of an update to be more transparent and fair in the process and to meet the needs of both students and volunteers. So as we said, we've been taking feedback over the past few years. We've been piloting changes here and there, and this is really the culmination of all of that feedback and those changes. So ultimately, these proposed changes will benefit students. And the goal is really to identify the best student leaders at WSU to begin engagement while they're current students and to follow through graduation as they become recent grads, and continuing to engage them to become active alumni. And the structural changes itself is really allowing us as volunteers to really be able to identify that highest rated overall student to be the recipient of the scholarship, instead of granting awards at the specific chapter selected level. All applicants are now competing with all other applicants in that application pool. So it's one application pool. And this also alleviates chapters from having some pressure to create committees. There's a diversity of experience and capacity across chapters. And so we come across every year chapters that are struggling to put together committees, and we want to make sure that we can both support students in that area so they don't miss out on applying because the chapter doesn't have a scholarship committee, but also supporting volunteers in that area for folks who do want to participate in the scholarship selection process. So I will pass it off to Karen now to talk in more detail about, I have one more slide. Well, I'll pass it off to Karen in just a second to talk more about those details. So what's the impact on alumni with this structural change? We've tried to hit on the number one piece of feedback that we get from volunteers, which is their favorite part of volunteering is interacting with students, being able to build those relationships with students. So we're hoping that the structural changes that Karen's going to talk in more detail about is going to provide more opportunities and different kinds of opportunities, less formal, which is part of some volunteer feedback, more opportunities to deepen that relationship through all phases. So we have opportunities for chapters to engage with students in solicitation to apply for the leadership scholarship, using the student guide to help students prepare their essays, and also to prepare for their interviews. And this is through as many touch points or different structures as the chapter prefers. So some chapters are already talking about doing group sessions, and some have done group preparation sessions in the past. Others have talked about structures on like one-on-one mentorship. So this really allows the chapters a lot of autonomy to structure all of these touch points, how they see is most appropriate for them and for their students in their area. And then it also gives chapters the option to notify their local recipients. So if students in their area win scholarships this selection cycle, we will notify the chapters, and the chapters will have an opportunity to be the ones to notify and celebrate their students. And then in addition, as always, chapters can continue to invite students to their chapter events to continue that engagement. We are hoping that these new structures also help expand engagement. Volunteers can participate regardless of geography or of their chapter status now. And we're hoping this also distributes the task to provide a more sustainable workload for volunteers. Sometimes we have chapters that have 32 applications, and another chapter in that same year will have one. So we're hoping that this provides more sustainability for each individual volunteer. We're also hoping that this works towards that one WSU, the opportunity to build relationships among students and volunteers across the country, so beyond just the chapter, so that folks feel more connected not only to the Alumni Association, but to each other across the country. This also allows for students in any given chapter an increased chance for multiple awards rather than having the one award per chapter. And things that won't change for chapters or for volunteers, there's no change to Cougs of the Deserts program, Retiree Association, and Skagit, Whatcom, San Juan Island Counties Leadership Awards. And the out-of-state awards will still remain limited by availability of funds. And again, the top applicants are prioritized. For students, we're hoping that the restructure allows, first and foremost, students to turn in and submit increased quality application materials, including their interview experience. We're hoping that chapters will be able now to help students improve their submission along the way of the application process by using the resources that we've developed and also resources that chapters have developed over the years. Chapters are free to use their resources as well, and the volunteers' expertise in their chapters to help prepare students to increase that quality of submission. We hope that students feel that this is a fair and transparent process. We dug into research in industry best practices with having partially blinded materials, random assignment, using rubrics, and also that single pool of applicants. And we hope that students, since they're competing across the entire pool of applicants and not just within their chapter, we are hoping that we are selecting now the very best leaders in any given applicant pool for a selection cycle. Again, multiple winners will be possible for any particular chapter area. So we hope that students are excited about that. And again, something that students always come back and tell us, our award recipients and students who have just participated in the process, is that they really enjoy the more informal opportunities and the opportunities just to have discussions with alumni volunteers. And so we're hoping that students also feel that these are opportunities to deepen their student volunteer relationship, not just with their local chapter, but with volunteers across the country. And again, I'm trying to build that one WSU. So I will hand it off to you, Karen, now. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Roxanne. Okay, so now that Jamaica and Roxanne have spoken about some of the changes and improvements to our Student First scholarship program, I'm just going to hit at a bit of a high level about the roles and responsibilities of our volunteers. So we're going to have at the end of this, I think, slide presentation or in the chat, there's going to be lots of various links that you can utilize. And one of the links in there will be for the sign up for the scholarship selection committee. Again, anyone can sign up regardless of location or chapter affiliation. And so the committee is going to be split into random teams. And our goal is to have multiple teams of 5 on each team with a minimum of 3. And then this year, we are going to have a very robust volunteer training program. As that's been mentioned, we're making some changes, which include live training sessions, some training modules, and an updated and enhanced guidebook, which is going to guide the volunteers through the process step by step. Next slide. So this is a student first structure. And as Roxanne mentioned a few minutes ago, all applicants, regarding of their location, in-state, out-of-state, they're all going to go into one pool. All of those applicants are going to be randomly assigned to a team of volunteers. As I mentioned, ideally we'll have 5 volunteers on each team, but a minimum of 3. These applications are going to be random and partially blinded. So there could be a volunteer team comprised of 5 members that may be reviewing applications of 2 to 3 in-state students, and then also an out-of-state student. And within that team, each of those teams are going to select their final applicants. So a little bit different than before. We're hoping that by this and the scoring, the cream will rise to the top. And of course, as Jamaica mentioned earlier, our funding for our scholarships available is pretty close to what it was this past year. And so it'll be around, give or take, 65 awards given based on some being full-time, part-time, etc. For that. So this shows just really quickly at a high level the timeline. So last week on November 1st, the portal opened. I believe even that very first day, we had some student applications. I'm not sure if they had completed it, but they were in there busy and opening it up. And then obviously here is November 4th, our first kind of overview information session about the program. Come mid-January, we will be doing a deeper dive of the extended trainings that will take place. And again, as I mentioned, we're going to have some live trainings. We're going to have modules that you can go back review. There's going to be access to things that you can go to review. And again, we've even updated the volunteer handbook so it's a little more clear, concise, and can guide you through step by step. with some of the changes we made in how this is all being structured, the volunteer teams now have a longer, a broader, greater amount of time for them to complete their interviews and select their top applicants. So kind of a unplanned benefit there, but that really helps. Next slide. Promotional and support materials. So we really expanded and revamped our promotional and support materials. These materials can be used for advertising, outreach, and support of your local applicant. And access to that is open to all our scholarship volunteers. And again, the link and how, I think Jamaica is going to cover that at the very end of how to access that. But we're excited to have revamped new materials that is available to all. Scholarship Student Guide. I think this has been one of the most positive, or will be positive, impactful changes for the students themselves. Prior to this year, they went on to the student portal. It had the basic instructions, how to complete the application, the essay questions to answer. And we found that they were a little bit lost at times, also based on feedback from volunteers, which Roxanne spoke of. Some of the answers, etc., were lacking clarity. Students weren't prepared for interviews. Now in this student guide, we not only have, a step-by-step of how they apply, but we have some tools and guidance for them, detailed instructions on how they can formulate their written essay, and how they can prepare for their interviews. So we're hoping this will enhance the responses that the students provide, and this will also add clarity for the volunteers in assessing and scoring those student applications of essays and interviews. Okay, so who can volunteer? All Cougs alumni, faculty, staff, and affiliates, regardless of chapter status, are eligible to participate. So affiliates is someone who has a verified association with WSU. So I'm sure we all know of various people that maybe are a honorary WSU volunteer, just as passionate as those of us that attended the school are. So again, as we mentioned, volunteering is a great way for you to increase your connection and interaction with students. And that has been based on volunteer feedback, one of the things that our volunteers enjoy most about the process. So sign-up's really easy. It's we have the link there that's going to be provided. So chapters, if you had members that were part of your scholarship committee, those that are still interested, those names can be submitted by the chapter, turned into Jamaica by December 15th. But otherwise, it's an easy process to sign up through the portal and go from there.
Thank you. Just to show you real quick on this last link that I gave you, that's the same Google Drive that Morgan shared at our last training for social media. And so if you open it up, are you able to see the Google Drive now? Yes, perfect. So when you go into the WSUAA communications, and inside of there, there's a folder called Scholarship Promotions and Info, and everyone should have access to this if you click on the link. If not, let me know privately and I'll make sure you get it. Inside of here, we revamped the promotional activity materials, and there's actually some for each campus. So we use the image that's associated with that campus. There's general scholarship images you could use in here, a whole variety of different sizes of different, they have the outline or just the real basic announcements on here. And then also there is verbiage here. These are example things you could use for social media posts if you're emailing or reaching out to your chapters, to people in your neighborhood. This is the student guide that Roxanne and Karen mentioned. This is something that is on the website. It's also, the students can access it when they get into reviewer. As volunteers, we recommend you get in there and check it out because there really is some good information in here. The handbook that we provide to volunteers has a lot of this information in it, but this is trying to be student-friendly information in there, accessible to them. And then there's a folder here that says Scholarship Volunteers. And in that folder, there's promotional materials to use and also a document that has verbiage that you can use to send out to your chapters, your volunteers, your friends that are Cougs around the world. It really is expanding the reach that we have for our volunteers to participate in the process. We already have, Karen mentioned, people are in there on the first filling application. There's one that actually already hit submit on hers. There's about 10 others that are started. And then we did put this into the email last week that came from the association, and we had 10 volunteers like within an hour sign up to be a part of the committee. So it was really exciting. And their names that haven't been out before. So I'm really excited to see our existing volunteers and these new volunteers coming into play. As an out-of-state alumni, I didn't have the opportunity to serve on this committee. And so this now gives me an opportunity as out-of-state alumni to participate in something and give back to the university. And we have found over the years that so many people love doing the scholarships, and that's the thing that keeps them connected. They don't necessarily like going to the watch parties or some of the other events, but this is something they're passionate about. So we're really hoping to expand that group of volunteers to be a part of this. For those chapters, and she said, I'm going to say it one more time, though, if you have your list of volunteers that want to be included, just email it in. You don't need to go through the form. If people would like to, go ahead. The form is very simple, basic information. Then we just asked for if they have any experience and if they'd like to be a lead. That's a pretty simple form, but I will take a list of names, not a problem with that at all. Our last part here, if anyone attended the fall session, our fall volunteer leadership conference, we had a panel of students who were just absolutely outstanding. And this was a quote from our student regent, Amina Hussein, and she said, as a land-grant institution, WSU's mission is to provide education to all. This mission doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's making sure we also advocate for other institutions and other individuals who also have equal access and opportunity. Yes, Cougs help Cougs, but we're here to help everyone. So we must also embed that into the culture as well, which as a student to have this view of what we can do and the impact that we have on our volunteers, it really just fit into these changes of student first approach that we have going on. So with that, I am going to quit sharing and answer any questions. I only saw one question in the chat so far about the question submission. If we do not have a chapter rep, how do we deal with applicant outreach? We are more than happy to, what I can do is look at the applicants, if there's any in your area, and connect you with them. Cougs Connect, we're really pushing the students to go to Cougs Connect to help find people in their local areas to reach out to for help. And then if you have your social media pages too, we can throw it on there to reach out for help to the local areas there. Other questions, concerns, thoughts? And I know this is a lot to take in, but we're hoping that we've given a lot of materials to help with this.
Hey, Jamaica, I just wanted to build off your response to Kiana. Kiana asked if someone is in a chapter scholarship committee, do they need to apply for this new opportunity? And so I saw that your response was that chapters can submit the list of names to you instead of completing the form. But I also wanted to encourage Kiana or anyone else who might be in this situation that you certainly can participate in with your local scholarship folks to help students draft their essay responses, review them, mentor them in whichever structure that you like. And you can also feel free to join this selection process. It's not an either or situation. And that's something that, again, that we got feedback from volunteers is they like the increased opportunities to have that informal interaction with their local kids while also still participating in the selection process and ensuring that we're selecting the best student leaders every year. So Kiana and anyone else in that situation, you are absolutely welcome, and we hope to have you participate in the selection process and prepare your local kids for having really strong, excellent applications.
We will record this and I'll send out the slide deck with it also. But the timeline here, you can see that we have more time built in from early February to March 6th, looking at the written parts, the written materials, and then March 9th through the 3rd to conduct the interviews. And the same group of individuals that looks at the written materials, you're going to interview those same students. So you're staying with that same group of students as partially blinded and randomized through the process. And then when those scores come back in, they'll be ranked from highest to lowest on that. We will get into a lot more detail in the training. This is that high level. Here are the major changes that are coming. Start promoting out. Let's get as many applicants as we can, and the quality, we've had great quality before, but this just gives more clarity to what we're looking for with the applications that are coming through. Is there a limit to how many members each chapter can send to a committee? No, there's not, because what's going to happen is we're going to take all of our committee members, and then we will randomize them into smaller teams of 3 to 5. Our goal is to have 5 per team. And this is goals of 5 alumni or volunteers per team, and then 10 applicants. But it all varies on how many applications we get and how many volunteers we get. But that would be our goal, is 5 volunteers to 10 applications. And as Roxanne said earlier, some chapters have been getting like 30 plus. Some get 1, and now everybody gets the experience of going through the process with a pool of students. Any other questions?
What's the cap that we have on volunteers?
There is not a cap. As many as we get, we will take. No cap on volunteers.
I mean, naturally, but
Yeah.
if it was, I guess, a perfect storm, depending upon like the maximum amount of applications that we've gotten in the past, and if there were 5 volunteers for all those applications, what's
Yeah.
that math look like?
Roxanne, do you remember the math we did a couple weeks ago on this?
Yep. So I did some calculations in terms of, again, a projection of what an increased applicant pool might be like, given that we are adjusting that GPA from the 3.3 to the 3.0. So best case scenario, if we were to get a 25% increase of applications from students, and we were to stay around the same number of volunteers as last year, we're looking at around 10 applications per 5-person team member.
And how many volunteers do we have last year?
How many Jamaica, do you have that?
I think we had
Volunteers.
165 completed applications last year. And so our number we played with is 200 applications, and then kind of work backwards from there.
But how many volunteers do we have last year?
I think 120.
That sounds about right.
Oh,
So
there were quite a bit then.
Yes. Quite a bit. But some chapters had 1 or 2, and others had 8 to 10 on their committee. So this year is just spreading out the volunteers among the groups.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just personally pledge to everybody on this call, like in bringing in 2 people, I've already texted at least 10. So, yeah, I mean, we just got to make it easier for us, right? Because if everybody's like scrounging to do all the work together, even though 120 volunteers is sweet, but if it seems like everybody has, if 1 or 2 people have like a load that's just too much, it's not going to make it enjoyable, and they're not going to show up the next year. And so, again, if we have too many volunteers, like if everybody can just reach out to 5 people, out of those 5 people, 1 person show up, you're shooting 20%, like that's a win for us all. So, especially these kids, right?
Exactly. Thank you for that. Yes. Mariana, I'm confirming tracking changes. 2 general applications. Oh, sorry, 2 questions. Sorry, I got something popped up here. So yeah, in the past, the chapters were given allocated 1 award. King County and Spokane had a couple more, and Pullman also. So this year that's out, and everybody goes into the one big pool. Out-of-state students also go into that pool, and so I was an English major, so for ease, if we have 50 awards we're giving out this year. After interviews are done, all those scores come back into one big list ranked. We'll take the top 50. Say we have enough money for funding of 3 out of state. we'll take our top 3 out of state, and then anyone that's an out of state that's still ranked, we'll have to see if they qualify for other funds of money because we cannot use Washington State earmarked money for out of state students. And so that's the one that really we have to watch is those out of state students, but we'll do as many as we can. But there are some other funding sources that are not limited to Washington State students. So it's going to be totally based on that rank until we run out of funding for out of state, and then we'll be able to see if other funding sources work. But we'll start at the top and work our way down for the number of awards that we can give out. Did that answer your question? Okay, any other questions? I love the idea of everybody just reaching out to a few friends and say, hey, be a part of this. And the timeline, like I said, it is ebb and flow when you get the applications to look at. It takes a little more time and we get to do the interviews. But having the longer period windows will hopefully be helpful in reducing some of the stress that we've heard in the past on those quick turnaround times. Well, thank
Go
you.
ahead.
Yeah. Hi.
Sorry, I just wanted to say the promotional material is awesome.
Good,
I don't know
good.
if that's been done before. Maybe I missed it. I don't know, but I just sent it out to advisors on all the campuses as we were sitting here so to share with their students. So on Tri-Cities, Vancouver, Global, Pullman. So they'll be able to post that everywhere. And I'm sending it to our multicultural student services as we speak. So this is amazing how much work you've all put into it to make it so that it's very streamlined and smooth for us to be able to share with students. So just wanted to mention that. And just as I was sitting here, our TMP program, which is a program that works with STEM students, sent it out to their students. I'm a liaison for the College of Arts and Sciences for that program. So I'm just CC'd on it. And I was like, as before you guys even talk about the promotional material, I was like, I was about to like cut and paste it and send it. And I was like, oh wait, no, we have this whole thing that yeah, a lot's happening. Your hard work, both your hard work, everyone's hard work is already like, it's showing. So yeah, just want to let you guys.
Thank you so much. And thank you to we have committee members on the call, and thank you all for your work on this too. One thing I did not mention is in that folder, there's a high school one. Some of the feedback last year is we have very few first year students applying because they just don't know, or a lot of them just don't know that the application is there. And so I made contact with our recruiters that have those high school contacts to get that to them. And if you have contacts at your local high schools, there is a folder and there's a specific line on there that says incoming first year students to make sure that freshmen coming in understand that they can qualify. And our legacy awards, so if you have a parent or grandparent that graduated, that is still a first year award. We do earmark that for first year because a lot of the time those first year really do have a hard time competing with upper level students on that leadership qualities. And so this way we make sure we're getting some of that recruitment money to our first year students, and then a lot of it does end up going to the upper level, which is where our scholarship services and enrollment management says that we need to keep that recruitment money there, or to keep the students there on campus.
So I just logged in because I could not get that Zoom link to work that Amber sent out.
Sorry.
And I finally figured out a backdoor way, but I missed like all but the last 3 minutes of the meeting. Is this recorded?
It is, and I will send out the slide deck and the recording here, hopefully this afternoon.
Okay, yeah, the Zoom link would not work and I couldn't get anybody to respond to my emails, so.
I'm sorry, Nisha.
But I finally figured out a backdoor way.
Lindsay, we can talk here, or you and I can talk offline more specifically about those ones if you'd like to.
Okay, offline is great.
Okay, yep, we'll definitely talk about that.
I know we're scheduled for one in December, but I wanted to know before then how
Okay.
we're going to work it out.
I will get a hold of you after our call here today. We can work on that.
I have to leave right after this,
Okay.
so
We'll
I'll
connect.
email you. I'll
Okay,
email you.
perfect.
Thank
Sounds
you.
good.
Thanks.
Yes. Anything else for the group? Okay, well, thank you all so much. I'll hang out for a few minutes if anything comes up, but if you have any other questions, you know how to get a hold of us, and go Cougs.
And I just want to acknowledge that this work is a culmination of folks over the years. So there's folks on this call like Lindsay, Lo, Sharon, who have helped for years and years in the past building up to this, and folks who are here for this year launching, building off of their work and launching all of these updates, like Shioma and Bree, who are on the committee this year. So this is a lot of folks' work over 4 or 5 years. And a lot of you folks on here have been part of our focus groups to give us the feedback to tell us what's working and what's not. So I just wanted to thank everyone again for your support and service over the years that really brought all of this to fruition, whether you were a committee member or a volunteer, giving us feedback, telling us what needed to change. So thank you so much to all of you.
Thank you.
Go Cougs.